Good morning, everybody. I'm getting so used to this after 28 days that we just have a couple to go. I'm going to miss you guys, so I hope that we'll stay connected in all kinds of other ways. One of the gifts in this terrible ordeal that we've all been going through for the past 6 weeks or so is that I think many of us have learned other ways that we can communicate and stay connected and stay in touch. So I think that's going to be a very positive thing going forward. So let's see, day 28, I keep trying to figure out new creative things to do with my various bad hair days. So today I'm going for the Audrey Hepburn Tasteful Scarf. Oh, maybe there's a book in this, what to do when the bad hair days go on and on and on. So good morning, everybody. The quotation for today that just randomly came up, meaning that my lovely virtual assistant just randomly took the quotes and put them on today's, says, "Your astonishing immortal soul has deigned to occupy an astonishing, albeit mortal body. You've heard of guilt by association? Well, this is grace by association." And that comes from Younger by the Day. And I also want to do a shout out to people out there in the world who just don't see the world the way I do, and maybe you don't believe about immortal souls and things like that. That's fine. Do a quick translation. I am a big fan of the quick translation because that way I can take wisdom from all kinds of cultures and all kinds of traditions and all kinds of people who are like me and not like me and make it work in my world and in my life. So basically what we're talking about today on this score is this physical self, the one that I think so often we tend to ignore or downplay or leave out or disregard, is really spectacular in and of itself. So I know we've talked a lot about that this month. We've talked about exercise, we've talked about food, but it's just so important to take care of this physical being. And I think we're seeing that so much now as we go through this pandemic, that as long as we have health, as long as we're able to use our body and do what we're able to do with it, nothing is impossible. All the other stuff, all the economic stuff we're looking at, and that, as awful and potentially tragic as that certainly is for some people, it's not irredeemable as long as we're healthy. Now, I'm coming to you as a 70-year-old woman saying that, and I remember hearing it from my grandmother. Well, she wasn't my biological grandmother. She was my, I don't know what you'd call it. She was my adopted grandmother. So when I was a little girl, they didn't have daycare and both my parents worked. So this amazing woman came to live with us, and I called her Dee Dee. Her name was Mrs. DeSoto. To me, she was always Dee Dee. And you know how I love Auntie Mame. She was sort of like that. She's kind of a Mary Poppins kind of person. And I remember she would always say, as long as you have your health, you have everything. And as a little kid, I remember thinking, well, no, you don't, because you need to be pretty and you need to be smart and you need to be popular and you need to have lots of money. But I get it now that as long as you have your health, you do indeed have everything. And if I happen to be seeing Mark Huberman, yes, I do, right now from the National Health Association, then he showed up at the perfect time because that's really what it's about. I think sometimes too in the vegan world, we sometimes think, oh, those people that do this for their health, they're just so selfish. They're not thinking about the animals and everything. You know what? We need to do this for every single reason, because not being healthy is really selfish, because then we're dependent on other people. Now, certainly this is Earth. We're all going to get sick at some point. We're all going to leave this planet, and we might have some forays with sickness before it gets to that point. Some things are out of our control, but we can certainly hedge our bets. And the way that we do that is doing all that good stuff that the National Health Association talks about. The whole food, plant-based way of eating, getting exercise every day, getting rest, dealing with our stress and anxiety, having warm human relationships, even at a distance, all these things feed in to giving us health that truly, truly lasts. Oh, Candira, you watched Auntie Mame for the first time. Isn't it magnificent? Oh, I hope you'll all do that and give yourself that wonderful treat. So we are going to take very good care of our physical selves going forward. If anybody has a question on that or a comment on that, please put them in the comments. And I would like to move on to a different topic because it's where my thoughts are this morning. I did tag some of you on this. I realized that I can't tag you if we're not friends or something like that. I don't know. I was trying to understand the rules of Facebook on tagging this morning. But somebody sent me a beautiful short video called Animals Reclaiming the World. And I did post that, and as I said, I tagged some of you. If you're not seeing it, just put it in the comments section and I will get you the link. But it moved me in a way that I haven't been moved by anything in a very long time. It's showing what different non-human animals in different parts of the world are doing now that there's more freedom and more space and there aren't humans in the way. So everything from monkeys in a swimming pool in India to a little wild pig, wild boar running free in Arizona, to a beautiful group of sheep in the UK on one of those little merry-go-round toys that they have at a playground. It was just the sweetest thing. So the first time I watched it, I thought, oh boy, we should just give it to them. They do such a good job with it. And then I watched it the second time, and I'm hearing that line from the Sermon on the Mount, the meek shall inherit the earth. I look at this video, and it's like, oh my gosh, they just did. And then I watched it a third time, and I remembered another one of my favorite old movies. This one is from 1969. It's called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. It's about St. Francis and St. Clare. And in the story, at least, I don't know how historically accurate that is, but in the movie, when St. Francis gets in trouble with the Catholic Church because he's maybe a little too saintly, he says, oh, well, I'm going to go to Rome. I'll ask the Holy Father, and if I am off track, then I'm going to do something different. So he and his little ragtag band wind up at the Vatican and all of that opulence and wealth and glory. And the Pope meets St. Francis and says, we have been so concerned about original sin that we have forgotten original innocence. Because that's what Francis reminded him of. Well, that's what these animals remind me of, original innocence. So what do you do if all of a sudden the world is yours and you have freedom and safety that you haven't had in ages? Well, you take a stroll, you go for a swim, you play in the playground. What could be better than that? So I really, really encourage everybody to watch this and just get a sense of this true kinship of all life. There was a book called that. It's probably out of print. You can still get it through the American Vegan Society, and I'm a big fan of the American Vegan Society. They've been around since 1960, can you believe that? And one of the perks of membership, and membership is very cheap, it's $20 or $25 a year. I think it's $10 if you tell them that you're low income or a student, but they have a bookstore that has rare and hard to find books that they're not selling at rare and hard to find book prices. They're just selling them for the cover price or less. And one of these is a book from, gosh, I guess the 1950s called Kinship with All Life by a man named J. Allen Boone. And he got interested in animals when he was dog sitting for a famous movie dog of that time named Strongheart. And the intelligence and the ability to communicate of this dog gave the author a reason to want to look at other non-human beings and see what was going on with them cognitively. And he met all sorts of animals and learned about them. And the final story in the book was his relationship with a fly. And he named the fly Freddie. I mean, it's really stunning. And like Kandira has mentioned, Dr. Dolittle, I mean, all these stories, the historical reality and the fantasies all come from knowing that we are not the only people here. There are people who just look different and who have such beautiful hearts and, in my opinion, such beautiful souls. There's really nothing that I wouldn't do for them. This morning I read something about another dog has coronavirus, and oh my goodness, I just hope and pray we never get to the point where anybody is pointing their fingers at the dogs. And I realized that if my dog were threatened, if anything was going to happen to Forbes for any reason, I would sacrifice things that I absolutely love. I am an urban being. I would sacrifice New York City. I would run off to the wilds of Alaska. I would do whatever I needed to do to save this dog, because he is a member of my family and he is very important. And I know that if there were a pig in my family or or a cow or one of these people, I would feel the same way. So let's see what's coming in. Oh, Heidi, so incredibly powerful, surreal, and intense to see that video. Sad for them, that freedom to more safely self-express. And again, I can't do anything beyond see more. But anyway, yeah, and I just hope that some of this freedom can last for them, and also what's happened for the earth, the cleaner air, that we will be smart enough to maintain a good portion of that going forward. I hope and pray that that's the case. This morning when I was out with Forbes, my dog, I saw that somebody had put some graffiti on a lamppost, and it said Coronavirus 2020. And that was actually a comforting piece of graffiti for me, because it reminds me that this too shall pass. Somebody could have written Spanish flu 1918, 1919 on that lamppost 100 years ago, and it would have reminded me, you know, things come and things go. So for me, and I think for all of us who are thinking people, caring people, people who really want to leave this planet a better place, what can we do through this experience to use it as a point for transformation? There are lots of opportunities, and sometimes humans tend to get opportunities and we squander them, we walk away. I remember during 9/11, it was just so peaceful in New York City for 3-4 weeks. And I remember one day going out in the morning with my previous dog, and a couple of homeless gentlemen were having a fight and calling each other all kinds of unpleasant names. And I remember thinking, okay, we're back now. We're coming back. And it's too bad to think that whenever we start doing things we're not proud of, mean that it's back to normal. Maybe we can shift normal. Maybe we can make it a different kind of normal. Let's see. Oh, Karen, bless you. Oh, you love creating a charmed life and living a charmed life. Thank you. Thank you so very much. According to Amazon, I've bought, and I'll bet you're going to tell me, lots for gifts. That means the world to me. Thank you. You want to know how to warm an author's heart? Give the book as a gift. Sometimes people say, what's the most moving thing that anybody ever told you as an author? And I think for me, it was at a book signing in Nebraska quite some years ago. And a woman came up to me, and I was traveling, I guess, with the book that had come after Creating a Charmed Life. And she had this tattered copy of Creating a Charmed Life, and she said, I just want you to know that I read this book, I left my abusive husband, I got my GED, and I got my kids back. You know, when you're sitting at a keyboard writing a book, you want it to speak to people, you want it to reach people, you want it to help people. But the idea that it could inspire somebody to do that, I mean, I don't think anybody even has the kind of ego that would let them think, well, I'm writing this so that this sort of thing will happen. But because the universe, the way it apparently works, is that it takes what we do. It takes our gifts, our talents, our effort, our good deeds, our smile, whatever it is, and it magnifies that into something that we would never know that we could have been a part of, something that we would never recognize. So that's part of the magic of today. So to sum up, we're going to take care of the physical. We're going to really embrace all the beings of this planet because they have so much to teach us, so much to teach us. I think I'm going to watch that video again right now, and I would advise and suggest that each of you do the same. I know that I'm a different person from having seen it. All righty, tomorrow is day 29 and then day 30, and then we go on to the next adventure. Bless you. Thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day.